Let's get it, 580 Sports Talk on a Monday. Can we call it a Victory Monday? I think we can. Coming to you live following a Royals beatdown of the Brewers in Milwaukee. We are with you until 6 o'clock with 580 Sports Talk here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and streaming on video on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook at WIBW News. What's up? What's happening? Hope you had a great weekend. We're so glad that you are with us, that you hung out following Royals baseball to spend your afternoon with 580 Sports Talk. The gang's all here, and the gang's all in studio. My God, when was the last time this was the case? I literally don't remember.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, before state basketball.
It had been a long time since this has been the case. But the gang is all here. I am Dan Lucero, Brendan Brzezinski across from me, Spencer Dupuis across the glass. We are with you until 6 o'clock. Royals 11, Brewers 1. We'll talk about it. We've also got some NCAA tournament to get to. Obviously, big news with KU losing their big man, Flory Bidunga, to the transfer portal, among others. We'll get to that in headlines. Long way to go, short time to get there. We want to hear from you. Already appreciate those of you checking in the live chat on the YouTube channel. 580 Sports Talk, again, is where you can watch us and interact with us and your fellow listeners in the live chat on the YouTube app or on the web browser. You can also text the program, 785-272-9429. Obviously, a shortened first hour of the show here. We will push back our March championship for What Is Wrong With You as a result. What Is Wrong With You, sponsored by Ryan Mo Winkle, State Farm agent. We will push that back until tomorrow so that we can do that in full and give that the breathing space that it deserves and has earned on this program. So if you're tuning in for a What Is Wrong With You championship match, PPD Royals, blame the boys in blue. Because, boy, did they bring the bats out. That was a long baseball game. That's what happens when you score 11 runs, as the Royals did, including a 6th spot in the 7th. They scored 3 in the 1st to set the tone for the game with some early offense from Michael Massey and Hunter Renfroe. Jonathan India, 3-hit day, 1 day removed from getting ear-holed in the 9th inning by Emmanuel Clase. He certainly looked no worse for the wear. Bobby Witt Jr., a pair of hits, drove in a run. Salvi, pair of hits, drove in a run. Michael Massey, pair of hits, drove in a run. Hunter Renfroe drove in 2. Michael Garcia clubbed a dinger and drove in 2. Even Vinny Pasquantino drove in a run, though he was 0 for 5 today. Lots of good stuff at the plate. But the best thing today was on the bump. Kris Bubic, 6 shutout innings. He was the first Royals pitcher to get an out in the 6th inning this year, and he got 3 of them. No runs on 3 hits, walked 2, struck out 8, 15 swings and misses by Milwaukee hitters. Kris Bubic is essentially filling the rotation spot of Brady Singer from last year. It's the same rotation, except just swap Bubic in for Singer. And Singer's durability meant that he was going to take the ball 30-plus times. He was going to give you 180-odd innings. I don't know that volume is something that we can expect from Kris Bubic here in 2025. But if that's the effectiveness we're going to see, where Bubic is mixing his pitches, he's working up in the zone effectively with his fastball, he's reaching back for a couple extra miles per hour to put hitters away, the Royals could maybe have upgraded from Brady Singer with Kris Bubic. This looked like a continuation of the pitcher he was out of the bullpen last year. The pitcher it looked like he was becoming in those 3 brief starts before his elbow went back in 2023. This is exciting stuff. This looks like a pitcher realizing his potential, Kris Bubic.
So today, Kris Bubic did he finish with 9 strikeouts? Was that the final total for him today? It was 8 that he got. Okay, yeah. 8. So he came up just 1 away from his career high, which, by the way, they noted this on the radio broadcast, Jake Eisenberg did, that the career high for Kris Bubic was 9, which he set in 2023, right before he ended up having to get the reconstructive elbow surgery. So just an interesting side note there. I was going to ask you, because you mentioned Brady Singer there, and I'm not using this time to dump on the guy, because he had a nice little Royals career. He's going to get paid somewhere. He's starting anew somewhere else. Fine. I'm not trying to rag on the guy. If you're talking about the maximum best version of their stuff, I think you could probably argue the lean, and I don't think it's a huge lean, but you could argue the lean probably goes to Brady Singer. But if you're arguing for quality of stuff when meshed with the ability to be consistent with it, I think the lean goes pretty strongly toward Kris Bubic. And if those things are both true, if you can prove those things over the course of a couple months, over the course of a season, then yeah, I think the Royals did upgrade there, because the biggest problem was always with Singer. One, he'd get into a rut where he'd only throw 2 pitches.
Mm-hmm.
And 2, you could get ace level stuff one game and 5 days later get AA caliber stuff. It just was so hard to predict whether or not you'd get that stuff consistently from game to game, from week to week, from month to month. With Bubic, I think you still have the potential to be maybe not ace level stuff every time out, maybe not even quality start stuff every time out. I mean, this was better than just a quality start. I mean, it was fantastic. You might not get that every time out, but I think your floor is probably a little bit higher from game to game. And I think that is even more valuable than having stuff that is at its best as good as what Singer could bring you, because I think it's worth asking, what good is elite level stuff if you can't tap into it all the time? I'd rather have I'm not saying Bubic is a bum who's just a bum regularly. He's good. He's a good pitcher. But I'd rather have pretty good above average stuff and be able to tap into that every single time. I think that's the thing the Royals can get to here with Bubic.
Not just missing bats too, but missing barrels. Just no hard contact against Bubic today. It was a really impressive performance. 65 of his 95 pitches for strikes. It was outstanding. It was exactly the start to the season that you would want to see if there was any consternation about moving Bubic out of a role where he really did excel last year out of the bullpen. Boy, if you're going to move him to a starter, he better be a pretty good starter. Early returns could not be better. Early returns also very good for Maikel Garcia, who leads the Royals with 2 home runs after he dinged a big old dong out to center field in the 7th inning. 108.8 miles per hour off the bat. Maikel Garcia has 5 hits this season. 4 of them have registered over 100 miles an hour off the bat. And his ability to hit the ball hard is not in question. That's always been something that he has done well. And that's a valuable tool. It means something unless that contact isn't in the air. Hard ground balls go by another name. Outs. That's what hard ground balls are. Maikel Garcia, unfortunately, has been much too ground ball prone as a hitter. But with the exit velocities he gets, the ability to drive the ball, to hit it hard, to make loud contact, he starts putting it in the air, he could have some really good results. Now, I know we were saying this exact same stuff a week into the season last year when he got off to a very similar start, and then he proceeded to kill all the worms within a 50-mile radius of Kauffman Stadium the rest of the season and hit 230. So I don't want to get too far over my skis when it comes to Maikel Garcia, but it's been a really promising start for him at the plate. I guess he's fine in center field. I don't know. He was really tested today. Not a lot of hard contact, like we mentioned. Going to be some experimenting going on in the field. I can't really pass judgment on Garcia based on one afternoon in center, kind of a slow afternoon for him. It's not like Jonathan India, where I'm already convinced he can't really play left field. Just 2 games into that experiment, I'm already convinced. I don't want to see that too much, too often this year. But no, encouraging to see that from Garcia. Also made a web gem at second base. If he's a guy who just realizes his offensive potential and you can play him 5 games a week at a bunch of different positions and give guys days off, I think that's a really, really valuable player. That's the best possible case scenario with Garcia. If he gets there, great.
I hope we get there with him.
Yeah, but we're obviously hedging our bets because we were doing this exact same thing last year at this time.
I was sitting in the car listening to the game today, and I said to myself as they were talking about him and his 5-for-11 start, what would that have been, through the 6th inning today, Steve Stewart and Jake Eisenberg were talking about it. I said to myself very loudly in the front seat of my car, this dude loves March.
Him and John Rothstein, they really, really just love the month of March.
They both sleep in May.
Yeah, they sleep in May. We're going to take a short break, come back with a good, bad, ugly from the sports weekend to wrap up a very short 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. See, told you that would be a quick break. Good, bad, ugly from the weekend that was. My good, Gary Woodland, the professional sports franchise of Topeka, Kansas. Yesterday's Royals game was a dud. The basketball games were very good. But you know what was good? The golf. The Houston Open was a very entertaining tournament with a star-studded leaderboard. At one point, if you turned it on NBC in the back nine, there were 6 names on the leaderboard. 4 of them were former major champions. One of them was the number 1 player in the world. Ended up being, it's not a designated event, but it ended up being a very star-studded leaderboard. And right there near the top, with his best finish since 2020, Gary Woodland fires a course record tying 62 yesterday to finish in a tie for second, tied with Scheffler at 19 under, 1 shot off the winner, Minwoo Lee. Very entertaining golf tournament. Great to see G-Dub have the swagger back. He was club twirling. He was making bombs, long putts. He eagled a big hole late, birdied a big one to get to 19. It was just awesome to see Gary play that kind of golf because it's been a really long time, and hopefully he can keep it going into major season.
My good, I didn't really have any sports good this weekend, so I was happy to actually be home and spend time with my wife and kid for a little bit. That was nice.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's been a while.
No, man, I feel that. How about a good, Spencer?
Ovechkin's 5 goals away from immortality, and they just, because the Frozen Four didn't go the way they wanted to for Boston College, they just called up essentially the best pro prospect right now in hockey, Ryan Leonard, and he's going to make his debut tomorrow night, and the Caps are soaring right now.
My bad was how that injury to Janai Broom of Auburn looked. Amazing. He came back into the game. I don't think he thought he was going to be able to come back into the game yesterday. Yeah, his mom was in tears, the whole thing. Not only he came back out, he hit a 3 on his first shot back, which was a really cool moment. But that was a ugly looking injury. And hopefully Broom is close to 100% by the time the Final Four rolls around for the Tigers. You got a bad?
Yeah, my bad is a ref show at the D2 National Championship game. Cal State Dominguez Hills, screwed. I'm bitter.
I understandably so. You got a bad, Spencer?
Yeah, the reffing in the end of Kansas State women's basketball's game against USC, I didn't like the way that the refs were calling some things at the end of that game. Unfortunately, they fell by 6, but a heck of an effort by Kansas State women's basketball. And Aoka Lee and Serena Sundell, 2 of the best to ever do it in a women's Wildcat uniform.
No, 100%, 100%. Ugly for me, Brewers pitchers complaining about the Yankees torpedo bats. I don't know if they're legal or not. I don't know if they're going to stay legal, but make better pitches. Maybe you guys are just bums. We have more evidence. You guys see the Royals using those torpedo bats. They dropped 11 on your heads today. Maybe you guys just stink. You got an ugly, Brendan?
No, just a lot of like general bad, but no ugly.
Dylan Cruz has struck out way too many times. My rookie of the year for the NL is looking bad.
Hey, at least he's not Rafael Devers. Got that going for him, which is nice. Coming in the 5 o'clock hour, we got headlines for Rock and Roll Royals in the NCAA tournament. 1 full hour, 580 Sports Talks, all you get today. Savor it. Coming up next on 580 WIBW. Well, let's get it. 5 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. Couldn't figure out what I wanted to say there. Final hour is true. First full hour is also true.
Remember that time I tried to mix up my hour intro and it sounded like such hot garbage? We had to restart the hour.
Sound like your brain glitched. And
God,
you said,
that sucked.
What's going on? You were all over the place.
Hell.
I really wish I could find that clip.
Man.
It was one of the funniest things I've ever heard.
You do something long enough and it just sounds like normal and natural, and that's just what you, good or bad, it's what you do. And then if you change it, no one likes it. No one in this studio liked what I tried, and it was very bad, and we had to reset the hour.
One time I was watching, listening to a Rockies game, and their radio guy, Jack Corrigan, was calling a home run. And I think he wanted to vary what it was he was trying to say. And then his brain just vapor locked. And he said something like, and they're going to put up a board, fourth inning, solo, touch them all for it was just a jumble of words. If you could not diagram the sentence.
So the other day was the anniversary, 20 years maybe, of the And Boom Goes the Dynamite guy.
Yes, Boom Goes the Dynamite guy, Brian Collins.
Yes.
He has a name.
What I think it was the 20th anniversary just the other day. Yes, March 22nd of 2005. And that clip is hilarious. And it's especially funny to people who work in our industry and have, known people who are not good or seen, first time mistakes or whatever. But it's also a little too real because everyone's got a story like that.
No,
everyone has had a Brian Collins moment.
We all do. And I'll tell you this, nothing I've said has entered the lexicon in the way that Boom Goes the Dynamite has entered the lexicon. That became a thing. That's a thing people say.
Yes.
Because of that clip.
So funny.
I probably watched that. That's one of those proto-viral clips.
Yeah.
You go to E-Bombs World and watch it, and they had it watermarked in the corner.
Oh my God, E-Bombs World.
What you know about E-Bombs World, Spence? Was that a thing?
No.
Man. Oh, man. Now I feel ancient.
Peanut butter jelly time video.
The whistle go woo woo.
Oh,
Remember
man.
that guy?
Yeah, E-Bombs
Bob
World.
Rub.
That's wild.
Bob Rub and Little Sis. Let's remember some viral videos from the mid-2000s.
E-Bombs World was great because, well, actually, it wasn't.
No.
This part was not great because you didn't have to stray far to be like, hey, what's this? Oh, no.
Yes.
Lewd. Maybe racist.
Might have been
maybe both.
Snuff film adjacent.
Yeah. Not.
Lots of links to Tucker Max. The internet wasn't all great in the 2000s.
No.
It
was
was
a lot about the world that way, though.
Yeah, he did. It was the Boom Goes the Dynamite guy and the Shockwave games on the Lifesavers website. The only good
Candy Stand.
That's
CandyStand.com.
Oh, yeah. I wish I could still play those. I would still play the mini golf game.
Yes.
And the baseball game.
Fact.
100%.
Fact.
I would never get any work done.
No.
Speaking of computer games that were fun, did you, Brendan? I don't think Dan was in that era.
Yeah, because you're old.
Not that you're old, but the computer
right.
in the elementary and middle school era.
Yeah, you were working on
play
a Commodore 86 or whatever.
Did you ever have Fun Brain?
Oh yeah, we played those games all the time.
Mighty Guy.
I'm going to tell you something.
Mighty Guy, the best game ever invented.
I'm going to tell you something. I'm decently intelligent. I'm not going to say I'm smart. I'm of decent intelligence. If you asked any teacher of mine from 5th grade through, I don't know, when I started working, they would tell you, I'm not sure he paid attention for more than 10 minutes in the entire year in class. There were some classes when I took history of World War I, awesome, super engaged when I was in college. 6th grade math, nah, I was playing Sonic on the computer every day, every damn day.
In elementary
school. Sorry,
school.
Mr. Schroeder.
In elementary school, I did play Oregon Trail on a floppy disk. That was my elementary school. So maybe I am old.
The floppy disk comment probably dated yourself a little bit, but
didn't help you out.
Spiritually, though, I was right.
There. I'm talking about they were literally floppy, not the hard ones that we called floppy disks, but weren't.
Commodore 64. Thank you, Ryan, on YouTube. I couldn't remember the exact
Commodore 64. That's the one.
I did not know those existed. I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought they were always hard. I didn't know why they were called floppy. I did not know they flopped.
Text line for the 785. And you can text the program today, 785-272-9429, as well as weighing in the live chat if you're watching on our YouTube stream at 580 Sports Talk, our YouTube channel. Texas from the 785 shouts out a game that was part of the base computers, Minesweeper. Brendan, you are a Minesweeper aficionado. You've got it on your phone.
Let me do a little something right here. I'm going to pull my phone out. I'm going to unlock it. Oh, you know what? I actually deleted it because it saved a bunch of memory. It was eating 2 gigabytes of space on my phone.
You got to find a slim version.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it was stealing from me.
Pay for the ad-free.
I had a streak of, I think I got to 311 consecutive days of playing Minesweeper.
Jeez.
I enjoy sweeping mines. I got an 8 the other day before I got an 8. I'd never seen it before.
You mean surrounded by mines?
Surrounded by mines.
Wow.
All my years of sweeping, I had never found an 8. I screenshotted it. I have proof. I had to text everyone I knew. I couldn't believe it.
If anyone has a line on an ad-free version of Minesweeper that Brendan can download to his phone and not have it send all of his personal data to Singapore.
So this is not news to anyone. I was kind of a loser growing up. And I used to, in high school, my buddy and I, my best friend and I, we would... because there was a pass to go to the bathroom because it was in the air of you're going to go and make a bomb in the bathroom or something. I don't know. But you had a pass to go to the bathroom. And my best friend was in my French class with me my sophomore year. And we would just every day, one of us would alternate who would go first and go spend 7 minutes sitting in the bathroom and play Minesweeper or check Twitter or whatever. And then come back and then, I have to go too. And then we would go and text from the bathroom and play Minesweeper and sitting on the toilet every day.
Sounds like a blast.
I really never got anything done.
Can't believe you weren't more popular, to be honest.
No, I can. I can't believe I was not more popular.
We're going to talk some Royals baseball later on this hour. Royals winners this afternoon, in case you missed it, 11-1 in Milwaukee to open up that 3-game set against the defending NL Central champions. Salvador Perez, Michael Garcia both go yard. 6 shutout innings for Chris Bubich in his first start since 2023. We'll get to more on that and over the weekend, but it's easier to see the good after a game like today's. We'll get there. We'll talk some NCAA tournament as well. First time all 4 number 1 seeds have made the Final Four since 2008. Our guy CJ Moore tried to give his game in the Athletic. He said, I think all 4 1 seeds are going to the Final Four. That was his bracket. I think it was Jay Billis's bracket too. And he got roasted. You know what else he was? He was right. They tried to give his game, and some of us listened, and some of us didn't. By the way, not naming names, but I am leading the both of you in the 580 Sports Talk bracket pool.
Yeah, I felt really good about my first weekend. I thought, I was in the top million on ESPN. I thought, all right, we're killing it. It's not good anymore. It has gone from nice to, wow, this is ass.
My the bottom part of my bracket looks great heading into the weekend. My top part looked horrendous.
That's tough. Now nobody has a good bracket. And it's this is one where, I'm going to win my bracket pool. I got all 4 Final Four teams right. I could not be more unimpressed if you got all 4 Final Four teams right.
Because that means all you did is
doesn't prove that you
won.
Yes, it does not prove to me that you know ball. It means that you picked the high seeds and you are going to win your bracket pool. Congratulations. It does not confer upon you ball knower status.
Your kid who's too old to just pick the teams with horse mascots.
Yeah,
but is too young to know what Ken Pom is. Killed it in your pool this year.
4-year-olds and grandmas are dominating bracket pools this year.
They're the one. Well, that means they're the best. They're going to keep winning. Well, shoot, Brexlin, you're right.
We'll get to some NCAA tournament talk a little later on. Well, let's get to some 580 Sports Talk headlines, shall we? 580 Sports Talk headlines leading off the 5 o'clock hours we always do. And we began with Mad Lib from our guy Michael Swain at fog.net. The Mad Lib is KU player enters the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Because 4 Kansas Jayhawks have entered the transfer portal in the last 24 hours. Ryan Griffin, the most recent. David Coit also entering the transfer portal earlier today. Last night it was Ray Keys Passmore, but the big bombshell was the entrance into the transfer portal of freshman big man Flory Bidunga, who entered the portal with a do not contact designation. What you can infer from that is that Flory Bidunga is for sale. And Kansas is not going to be the highest bidder. All accounts, all intel suggests that, contrary to what was first suggested, there is no chance Flory Bidunga is coming back to Kansas. So 4 portal losses. We'll get there. We'll get there. 4 portal losses, all to varying degrees, a little surprising. I think there was a lot of thought that David Coit was going to come back. That has obviously changed course. Rylan Griffin was probably most people were leaning more towards he's going to leave than he's going to stay, but that was still up in the air. Raquise Passmore, a freshman that didn't get much on court time this year, a lot of times anymore, those guys leave instead of sticking it out for their sophomore year. That's just what college basketball is now. But Bidunga was the big bombshell. That was not something that anybody expected. But the more digging that you do and the more that you hear from, anytime you hear about a kid having a handler, and that's what Bidunga has. He has a guardian, a handler. The more you come to understand why this kind of thing might happen. And I think this is less about, 5-alarm fire at KU basketball than it is Flory wants big bag of cash and wants it right now.
Does the name...
And not even Flory wants big bag of cash. Flory's handler wants big bag of cash.
Yeah, here's a thought for you. Do you know the name Finney?
It was Silvio De Sosa's guardian.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to completely ding all of the guardians, because you know who had a family he lived with, his guardian family, who definitely had his best interest in mind? Udoka Azubuike.
Yeah.
His family took good care of Doak. I think that is totally fair to say. They were not jerking him around as a money grab. And I'm not saying that is exactly what is happening here. What I am saying is, if your handler is going to go to the local paper of record, they're going to go to the Kansas City Star and say, this has nothing to do with money. This is about something else. This is bigger. And then your kid enters the portal with a do not contact tag. Come on. Like, I wasn't born yesterday, man. No. I had someone in my Twitter mentions today saying, all that means is he wants his agent to do his business. Oh, okay. What do agents do?
They get money.
Dude, give me a break. And the thing is, I don't hold this against Flory. I don't. I wish the kid well.
Charge it to the game. I mean, that is college athletics in the 2020s. Charge it to the game.
If you are in the camp that is saying, I can't believe that anybody would do it. Auburn is the team that on social media and the message boards and everything is the rumored team with the most interest. I can't. That slime ball, Bruce Pearl. Guys,
I mean, that's true, but...
Well, it is true. It's been true for decades. But if you don't think that every team, and if you think, well, not my team. No. Your team as well. Every single team is tampering because there's no penalty for it. It's not tampering because a lot of times you're not talking to the kid. Who are you talking to? The agent. There's nothing against that. That's how pro teams do it. All of that. So I'm not upset about the alleged tampering. I'm not upset that Flory is going to go elsewhere. Now, am I bummed that he's not going to be a part of the KU team? Because I think that was a really fun potential pairing between him and Darren Peterson. Yeah, that's a bummer. I don't like that, but I'm not going to hold it against anyone. I think I understand being frustrated with the way college basketball specifically, but college sports in general, operate these days. I understand that. I can understand being upset that Flory, who seemed like a good kid, who was a lot of fun, I understand being upset that he's not going to be part of KU going forward. Totally understand that. I also think there is a reason to say, calm down just a smidge. Take a breath. I mean, don't even calm down. Just take a deep breath. Flory, tons of potential. You know who kind of stunk down the stretch? Flory. He had a freshman wall. He wasn't like a perfect player. You know who played really well, by the way? KJ Adams. But that's neither here nor there. This is not the end of the world. And you know who I know it's not the end of the world? Go look at every team, everywhere. Here's a player who entered the portal today, Dan. RJ Lewis. You know who RJ Lewis is?
He was St. John's best player.
St. John's best player. Not only was he that, he was the best player in the Big East. He was the Big East player of the year. He's going portaling. That's just what happens. And there's a discussion to be had. And I have an idea I want to bring up tomorrow because we're going to get into some of the weeds of this a little bit more tomorrow. Do things need to be cleaned up a little bit with the business? Maybe. But as it stands, this is what it is. You can't love it when KU is able to go grab someone from somewhere else, and then hate it because it happens to KU. This just is what it is. You don't have to like it, but it's the reality of the situation right now. I know there are a lot of Kansas fans that are freaking the hell out, and I get it. Freaking out because, oh my God, we're going to have tryouts on campus for kids to come play for us. One, no, come on. Two, last year, KU was one of 5 teams in Division I, 5 out of 363, that did not have a single player leave via the transfer portal. And KU brought in, right, this incredible class, AJ Storr and Rylan Griffin, and oh my God. KU had its most disappointing season in recent memory and had its undeniably worst season under Bill Self. I'm going to follow it, but I am not going to throw myself full force into this is the team to beat this year like I have in the past years. I have learned my lesson, and I hope that you guys can too. And I'm not trying to put anyone down who wants to get excited and live and die with every commitment, because you should be a fan the way you want. All I'm saying is sometimes it's a crapshoot, and sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. Sometimes you bring in these incredible classes and you go skyrocketing toward a national championship. Sometimes you strike out. There were 2 players from the East Coast, 2 small school guys who ended up getting big opportunities with major programs, not last offseason, but the season before, going into the 23-24 season, who were both KU targets. One of them ended up at KU, one of them ended up elsewhere. 2 guys from small schools in the East Coast. You know who they were? Walter Clayton Jr. and Nick Timberlake. Nick Timberlake came into KU with plenty of fanfare. Oh my God, dead-eye shooter. He doesn't even have to do anything else. Just shoot. Well, he stunk.
Towson, right?
Towson, correct. Walter Clayton was at Iona. And you know what he's doing right now? He's the best player on a team that is in the Final Four and has a real shot at a national championship in Florida. Sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't, right? That's life with the portal. KU's going to have to build a whole new roster aside from Elmarco Jackson and Jamari McDowell probably. Does that suck as a fan that you can't relate to these guys for 4 years now? Yes, of course. But it is what it is. You take the good with the bad. You hope they can build the best roster possible. It's not impossible KU could find a player better than Flory Bidunga in the portal. Those guys are out there.
It's not, but it is also something is lost when you have a player that you're excited to see come to your school and show promise as a freshman, and then you don't get to see that player's career out.
I totally agree.
There is the disappointment of that. That is very real. That is not anything to diminish, and it is a surprise. We had Michael Swain on the show last week, and I asked him, who's going to start for KU? Who can you tell me right now is going to be in the starting lineup at the Champions Classic for KU? And he gave me 2 names, Peterson and Bidunga.
Yeah.
So that's how fast that this apparently moved, although maybe it was happening behind the scenes all year, and it would not surprise us to learn in a few days that was the case, that there was always this possibility occurring behind the scenes.
Real quick, because I know we have more to get to. Real fast, though. Do any of the guys who have portaled, and I'm going to throw AJ Storr in there, too, because he ain't coming back. That's not a secret. Will KU miss any of them?
I think I'll miss Flory.
Other than Flory. I'm sorry. Other than Flory.
I think they might miss Coit off the bench.
I mean, he gave him something off the bench.
He was a willing shooter, for sure.
Yeah, like a team that's been searching for shooting the last 3 years. That was their best guy.
But he's 5'6".
Yeah, he's 5'10" and can't guard, and so he's limited in what he can do. He's a limited player.
And he had a stretch where he missed like 19 straight threes at one point. AJ Storr was terrible this year. The idea of Rylan Griffin, awesome. The actual Rylan Griffin,
didn't work out.
No. So I it's hard to not be able to connect to these guys long term, but I don't know how much KU is really missing. Again, Flory's tough. There's no doubt about that, but it's not the end of the world, at least not in my opinion.
I mean, essentially, this is just a big reset.
It is. It's a total reset. And I know there's more we're going to get to tomorrow. Spencer had a great question for us off the air that we'll touch on tomorrow on the show. But it's the business now.
Craig on Facebook says portal is nothing more than a chemistry experiment.
No, it is.
No, it really is.
And this year, it exploded.
And look, there are teams that don't lean on it and have had success. There are teams that do lean on it and have had success. Here's a funny question for you. Who had more starters on their Sweet 16 team that started their careers at Texas Tech? Texas Tech or Michigan?
Michigan.
Correct.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
So, it's
the biz.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Let's stay with college basketball for my next headline. I've been dying to talk about this with you guys. The headline is from CBSSports.com. Quote, he played us like a drum inside Kevin Willard's turbulent Maryland departure. So I was in Evansville, Indiana this past week, right? Mm-hmm. And I was there along with folks from each of our local TV stations, TV companies, including Katie Mayer, who works for Channel 13. Yes. Does a good job over there for WIBW TV. She is a Maryland alum.
Yes, she is.
And she, along with Maryland losing, was not happy about that. We were talking about Kevin Willard, not thrilled as an alumna of the University of Maryland about what Kevin Willard was doing. He seems like a real jerk.
He got to Maryland and immediately started complaining. Like the article that we linked here from CBS Sports suggests that as soon as he got there, he was immediately saying, well, we had better stuff at Seton Hall. We had more resources in the Big East back where I was in the Big East.
It's a football school.
And,
But you want to be a basketball school.
Complained about everything all the time. Yep. Was only good this year because he hit on a lottery pick in Derek Queen to join the team this year. And openly flirting with the Villanova job during a run to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, so if you did not pick up on this, maybe you were only tuned in for the KU games in the tournament or only for the Final Four, whatever. Kevin Willard, head coach of Maryland, their best year in quite a long time, hadn't been to the Sweet 16 in a long time. He, in 18 years, had never coached the team to the Sweet 16. They get there, and all anybody could talk about, all he could dance around, but frankly talk about, was the rumors that he was going to take the job at Villanova. It was a pretty open secret by the time the Sweet 16 started. He got booed by Maryland fans at their hotel send-off before their Sweet 16 game. I feel awful for the Juju Reeses and for Derek Queen and the guys on that team. This is about them, man. This is about the best team for Maryland in a decade and a half. For a team that, by the way, a school that does care about basketball quite a bit. And all anyone was talking about was Kevin Willard, who now has been announced as the new head coach at Villanova. If you're Villanova and you saw the way he exited Seton Hall, complain, take a bigger paycheck, then the way he exited Maryland, complain, take a different job back in the Big East, you've got to feel like you're already on borrowed time, right?
Well, I will say this. I think Kevin Willard's going to be happier at Villanova because he gets to be the man at Villanova.
Sure.
And it strikes me that is what he wants more than anything else, to be the man, is to be at a school that's going to dump everything into basketball. And Villanova is definitely going to do that. Where Maryland in the Big Ten, not so much. Also, I think he will be happier with the travel. That was another thing that he complained about. And I think that is actually an entirely valid thing to complain about. If you are Maryland and in the Big Ten, and you have to play at USC. And you have to play at Washington.
He was also complaining about that he couldn't do anything the last couple months when trying to get the resources needed because the AD was also leaving. The AD is left. So, if you're Maryland right now, you're in the worst position possible.
There are real questions about that athletic department, like real questions about how competitive they can really be and how much NIL they can really get and all that stuff. I think the founder of Under Armour went to Maryland. You'd think he'd be writing some big checks.
Correct.
He does.
Maybe he needs to write some bigger checks.
I think what they need to do is need to get Gary Williams in to be the interim AD and figure some things out there.
He just seems like such a jerk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he played this extremely poorly. Let's do another headline, Spencer.
Yes. Let me get back to the page here. I'm going to talk about this because my team got hurt by this in the NFC Championship
I saved
game.
This for you intentionally.
From ESPN.com, source, Tush Push ban has support in competition committee. The Green Bay Packers proposal to ban the Tush Push sneak, formerly known, as you guys know, as the Tush Push, has support within the competition committee. A source with direct knowledge told ESPN Sunday. Another source with direct knowledge of the competition committee's thinking said the proposal would, quote, be hotly contested among coaches, general managers, and owners as they gather it for the league meetings this week. So we could see an end to the Tush Push.
My comment on this is a bunch of losers on the competition committee. Figure out a way to stop it or quit crying. You're a bunch of losers. Yeah. Every franchise that votes for banning a totally legal play is a loser.
It's a rugby scrum. This is football.
Where did football come from, Spencer? What sport is it derived from?
Yes, but it's different than rugby.
I agree with this club executive quoted in the ESPN article. It's weak. It's punishing a team who became excellent at executing the play. In 2022, when Philadelphia was the only team doing it, there was a concern that it made the game less compelling because 4th and short was no longer in doubt. Then other teams do it as well.
No, that is the thing. Like, other teams can't do it. Mike Vrabel was fired up about this today. He said essentially the same thing, although they put his name on it because he was speaking publicly at the owners' meetings. I think it's weak. It is proof, though, as much as I don't love that the Packers were the ones that proposed this. Other teams clearly don't want it around either and are just happy somebody else took fell on the sword for the initiative. I don't like the idea of banning it. I sign a bunch of 350-pound offensive linemen like that. That's Jeff Kerr, who we've had on the show many times from CBS Sports, our buddy who covers the NFL and is very in tune with the Eagles. He's a Philly guy. Said, look, if they ban this play, you know what the Eagles will still be good at? Quarterback sneaks, because their offensive line is gigantic and they have a quarterback who can squat 600 pounds.
Yes.
Yeah. My biggest gripe with the play is that people still call it a quarterback sneak. There is nothing sneaky about it.
Yeah. Everybody in the world knows what it's going to be.
Yeah. I've had that conversation. The same phrase Spencer just used, I have talked about it with our guy, Jake LeBon, former co-host of the show, said it's a rugby play, but it's happening in football.
Yeah,
like that,
wouldn't that make it a football play?
Yeah, I have no problem with it.
It's not like saying, oh, they did a suicide squeeze. We can't allow that. That wouldn't make any sense to do a suicide squeeze in football. You can't.
Yeah,
but you can do a rugby play in football.
And the health and safety thing comes up. Come on, you don't care.
No,
they don't.
The league doesn't care a lick about player
I have no problem.
Safety.
Sign bigger linemen. Like that's the whole thing. Philly's got a bunch of strong dudes with thick asses. Like that's the whole reason the play works. Like Spencer, for reference, like your quarterback is 48 pounds. My team can't do it because Jordan Love's limbs all go in 80 different directions. So they bring a tight end to do it.
They bring Marcus Mariota in this year, so
yeah, like.
Yeah, the Chiefs won't do it.
Better at doing
because Patrick Mahomes had his knee rearranged in a fluke play in Denver, and they haven't called a quarterback sneak since with their starting quarterback. It's unbelievable. I have no idea if this is going to pass or not, but
sounds like it might.
Yeah,
man.
More likely than not. I would say at this point.
Just let it play better.
Headline to get to. This was a big one from the Kansas City Sports World today from SportingKC.com. Sporting KC mutually agrees to part ways with manager Peter Vermees, ending the trophy-laden run for Vermees as the longest tenured head coach in Major League Soccer and one of the longest-serving managers in all of global soccer. He spent 20 years in managerial positions at Sporting Kansas City, did Vermees, hoisted the 2013 MLS Cup, the U.S. Open Cup title in 2012, 2015, and 2017, guided the club to 11 playoff appearances and 4 first-place finishes in the regular season, coaching more than half the games in the club's 30-year existence. Kerry Zavagnin has been appointed as Sporting's interim head coach. If you're wondering, why is this move happening? Why would they now decide to push Peter Vermees aside? Put it to you this way. We used to talk about Sporting Kansas City on this radio program. We haven't done that in a long time.
Years!
And the reason that we don't do it anymore is because Sporting Kansas City fell out of relevance a while ago. And why did that happen? Because sometimes, man, even though you're a great coach, you wear out your welcome. And the message stops resonating and the tactics stop working. And it's time for a fresh coat of paint. And that's what's happening at Sporting Kansas City. Text from the 785 weighs in, says, about time. Maybe we'll win a game this year.
I think that's the feeling of a lot of that fan base.
Yeah, Barbara weighing in the YouTube comments as well, saying about time. So, he's
been sacked.
He's been sacked. Yes, yeah. The supporters put out a very strongly worded letter after their loss last night that said, "Listen, we love this club. We will go to the ends of the earth for Sporting KC. Please get rid of Peter Vermees." And then they did. Yeah. So, hey, fans, you have power. You should use it more often. Let's take a break. We'll come back. Royals winners this afternoon. We'll talk about their first 4 games. But first, a word from my friends at Great Life Topeka. We're getting funky weather this week. It really cramping my style when it comes to trying to get back out on the course and the driving range and get to playing. But as a Great Life Golf member, I'm looking forward to the benefits that will provide me throughout the golf season to come, including greens fees taken care of, carts taken care of, a range ball, bucket of range balls each day, bay time at Great Life North and Top City Golf North. Those are all part and parcel of a Great Life Golf and a Great Life all-inclusive membership. Great benefits if you love to play golf. Go to greatlifetopeka.com to learn more. We're back after this on 580 Sports Talk. .539 on 580 Sports Talk. We've only been on the air for about an hour, not even an hour yet, actually. We were on late due to Kansas City Royals baseball. Boys in blue even up the record at 2-2 with an 11-1 beatdown of the Milwaukee Brewers. That washes out some of the sour taste from a weekend series loss to Cleveland after losing the opener on Thursday. Royals rallied in the seventh inning to topple the Guardians 4-3 on Saturday, and then lost on Sunday 6-2. And primarily, those first few games were not a real promising first turn through the top of the rotation. I came up with a very annoying saying to describe the Royals' best path to winning games last season. I probably said it about 100 times, and maybe you remember it and you're saying it to yourself in your head if you're a frequent listener of the program. The starter goes deep and the big dogs eat. That's how the Royals win games. Their best hitters hit, and they're deep into the game. This was especially important early last year when their bullpen really stunk. The Royals had to get their starter through 6 innings, and preferably through 7 or 8 or even 9. Like it was really necessary when the bullpen was particularly shoddy at the beginning of last year. But that was always the most important part of the equation, and the one that the Royals counted on over and over again last year was their frontline guys got them through 6 into the 7th, and lightens the load on your bullpen, certainly, but it also gives you a chance to feel like you're just passing the baton from one starter to the next. And the 3 starts for the well-compensated gentleman at the top of the rotation, Cole Reagans, Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, they weren't real good. Reagans was fine. Like, neither guy was bad. Let's say that. I didn't think either guy was bad, but there's a standard, and neither guy met the standard. The command was a little bit off, and when your command is off against that Cleveland lineup in particular, they make you pay. They are tough outs. They put the ball in play. They foul pitches off, and if you're not sharp, they'll extend your pitch count out like they did to Michael Wacha on Sunday afternoon, and they'll get you out of the game early. And on Sunday, that was particularly harmful that Wacha only made it through 4 because that meant we had to see Chris Stratton in the ball game, or as we dubbed him last year, the human white flag. And stunningly, Stratton was lousy. Now, he wasn't the reason they lost, but he certainly was also a reason that they could not keep the game closer and try to mount a rally that mattered in the late innings. So that's where the Royals were disappointing, and it was frustrating to see that, but I don't think that's likely to continue. That's just one of those things that they have an opportunity to come out, make a statement, win a home series against the defending division champions to start their season, and they missed that opportunity because something they really rely on just wasn't there. And that's baseball, and it's a frustrating way to start the year. But again, you get some of that taste out of your mouth by dropping an 11th spot your first road game today.
Maybe I'm just too close to people who like live and die with the Royals, like our old buddy Trenton Craxner, or like hosts or interns on this program who live and die with every single pitch. I don't know, man. I feel pretty much the same as I did at the start of this past week about where the Royals are right now. Pitching to me at the start of the year, I wish it wasn't this way. I wish we could start these first couple games in March, this first week of the season, and everyone would go out there and throw 7+ innings. But A, nobody does that period in baseball anymore. And B, teams are so cowardly, but are so reticent to use guys a lot at the start of the season and they ramp up at the start of the year. We just don't do that. I don't think you can make any real sweeping judgments about a pitcher for at least a couple of starts to begin a year because they're just handled with kid gloves so much, which is honestly why I was so impressed by Bubic today.
Yeah.
And you made the point to me while we were watching the game, Dan, that he wasn't really laboring because you can, like, you might throw 90 pitches in a game, but not all 90 pitches are made, equal. And maybe you go 6 innings and throw 90. Maybe you can only go 4. Wacha got pulled through 4 innings the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're throwing really hard. Maybe you're throwing a bunch of off-speed stuff.
Are you
stuff,
laboring?
Are you laboring through it? Yes, exactly. Yeah. I mean, Bubic was cruising today, and the Royals were very content to let him just go out there and throw. I've mentioned a couple of times listening to the game on the radio today, and the radio crew, Steve Stewart and Jake Eisenberg, were kind of floored. I think it was Stewart's inning. He goes, whoa, Chris Bubic, he's at least going to start the 6th inning. I mean, he couldn't believe it.
I was surprised too, given how that Reagans and Lugo and Wacha were handled. But at the same time, again, like you said, not all pitch counts are the same. And you got to watch and see, hey, is he fatiguing? Is the arm slot dropping? Is the velocity still there? What does Salvi think behind the plate? You get his input on whether a guy can give you one more inning.
So I don't want to get too low on guys who maybe aren't especially crisp at the moment. I don't want to get too high on guys like on Bubic, who had a really good outing today because it's early. The sample size is so small. The one thing I will say about Wacha, and maybe I'm misremembering here, I don't have his game log in front of me. I do feel like there were a number of games last year where things got away from him a little bit, and he really did labor and couldn't get out of 5, couldn't even get out of 4.
But that's the difference
in the postseason, even.
But that's the difference between a middle of the rotation guy, a 3 or a 4, and your 1s and 2s, your Reaganses and your Lugos. And
I'm gonna trust the good. With Reagans especially. Lugo's such a unique case because he broke out so late and he's an older pitcher. He's a unique case. When it comes to Reagans, you're right. He wasn't bad. First start against opponents that matter.
Wasn't his best stuff. He left on the plus side. Like neither guy, even Wacha only threw 4 innings, but it was a only 3 runs. Like that is manageable.
And we've seen Reagans be a little streaky.
Yeah.
I mean, remember last year? I mean, he went through a stretch like, oh, hey, is the arm okay? Because the velocity's down, the stuff's not quite there. And then he bounced back and it was really good down the stretch. So I'm not sweating it too much. If we're having this conversation on April 31st, okay, that's
if we're having a conversation on April 31st, something is very strange.
I don't know how many days. Are there 30 days in April?
30 days, half September, April, June, and November.
Yeah,
all the rest have 31 except for February, which is all screwed up. That's how I remember the song from being a child. April 31st.
Yeah, if we're having a conversation.
If we're having that conversation at 5:78 on April 31st.
Okay. May 1st. April 30th. However you want to phrase it. If we're having it 4-ish weeks from now, then I will have more concerns.
Mark makes a good comment. Mark B in the YouTube comments mentioned that Bubic going through the 6 was helpful to the bullpen. The bullpen had to do a lot of heavy lifting over the weekend because the starters didn't go deep, and that's certainly a knock-on effect. But, yeah, if it was Quatrero feeling like his hand was a little forced, maybe. But I thought Bubic, I was glad he started the 6th. He didn't look like he was fading or fatiguing by the 5th. He looked strong, and he paid it off with a 1-2-3-6. So it all worked out for the Royals today. They are back in action tomorrow night. We're going to take a quick break, come back, some quick NCAA attorney thoughts on the other side here on 580 Sports Talk. Coming down the home stretch on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Final Four is set. Florida and Auburn on one side in an all-SEC showdown. Duke and Houston on the other side. All 4 number 1 seeds into the Final Four, first time since 2008. Coincidentally, that Final Four also in San Antonio. You guys each picked Duke to win the national championship. Are you more or less convinced that they're going to pull that off based on what you've seen or what you saw over this weekend?
I would say equally so.
Yeah, I would say I'm about where I was at the beginning of the tournament on them.
I think Houston's going to give them a battle. Honestly, I think the toughest game potentially remaining for Duke is Houston.
I agree.
Houston will just beat the crap out of you, and they're so good at it. They run good stuff. That baseline out of bounds play to win the game was that the Sweet 16? Yeah. I mean, that was just magnificent work. Sampson's obviously a great coach. I think that is, and not that Florida or Auburn are bad by any means, but I think that Houston is a tougher matchup because Duke is young, because sometimes young players don't do well with being punched in the face over and over and over again, like those wrestling match kind of games that Houston likes to play.
And that is why I've leaned Houston in that matchup. Why I picked Houston to win the national championship at the beginning. I picked them to beat Duke in the Final Four. I thought that they're older team, and they might be a little tougher. And how's Cooper Flagg going to respond to that toughness that Houston brings every game? I'm no longer concerned. I have to be honest. Earlier this year, I was a little skeptical about John Shire's abilities as an in-game coach. I don't know, like, in-game X's and O's, if my opinion has super changed, but game planning-wise, I've developed a lot of respect for Shire during this tournament run. They had Mark Sears in the deepest part of hell.
They defend really, really well. That's the thing. Duke's not just a pretty boy team. I mean, they play good, quality, hard. They're not Houston defensively, but they defend well. Cooper Flagg is not a traffic cone out there. None of those guys are. And I give them a lot of credit. They're not nearly as, some people disagree with me, but they're not nearly as hateable as many Duke teams throughout history.
Yeah.
I think I mostly just hated Coach K.
Cooper Flagg is the best player I've ever seen who is bad at dribbling. Like,
yeah, not an elite skill of his.
Sometimes I wonder, like, does he practice dribbling? Like, it looks like he cannot dribble the basketball.
He will not be playing point forward at the next level.
No, he absolutely will not. But no, great player. Yeah, really good team. They just score and score. They got a bunch of different ways they can beat you. They're really good, and there's a reason they open as 4.5-point favorites against Houston. I haven't seen if that line has moved at all, but. Again, I'm still sticking with Houston. I'll stick with the toughness. I'll stick with Kelvin Sampson. Just feels like their year. The other side of the bracket, Auburn is so talented, but they play with their food a lot.
Yes, they do.
And Florida is I can't believe they're still getting away with this team of this tournament because they should have lost to UConn. UConn was better than them for 37 minutes, and they beat them. And then Texas Tech was better than them for 37 minutes. And somehow Florida won that game. I left the room. I thought that game was over. I went to go put my son to bed. It was a 9-point game. I went to put my son to bed. I come back. What the hell?
I think it'll be just like 2008 again in San Antonio. The two best teams will play. I think it'll be Auburn Duke.
I have Auburn Houston. So we'll take a break. Come back with the final word on 580 Sports Talk. go quick on a final word. Spencer Dupuis, start us off.
It's 4 games. We have been through 4 games for the Royals, and I think that this is where or last year, I feel like at this point, and there's a lot to go. Don't worry. It's a 162 game season, but some things can turn into habits that get worse as the season goes on, which you hope you don't happen.
Brendan.
I am also bummed, like many of you KU fans, that Flory Bidunga is not going to play with Darren Peterson come next year. That being said, take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. Everybody is turning over their entire roster. There are players better than Flory Bidunga who are going to be available. Take a deep breath. It'll be all right. Tune out for now. Tune back in November.
My final word, salute again to the K-State women. Valiant effort in falling to USC out in Spokane on Saturday night in the Sweet 16. Disappointed to see it end that way for the seniors, particularly Aoka Lee's legendary K-State career. But the next phase of K-State basketball is this. They have to be more athletic. USC was a heck of a lot more athletic than that Kansas State team. And moving forward, Jeff Mitty's got to get some more athleticism into that K-State program if they're going to continue to make deep March runs. That'll do it for us today. We're back tomorrow from 3 until 6. For Brendan Dorzinski and Spencer Dupuis, I'm Dan Lucero. This was 580 Sports Talk. Good night.